Hey, math class. Okay, so welcome back to our final weeks here. We're in week 5 of online school. Can you believe that? 5 weeks we've been doing this, or this is our 5th week doing it. It's kind of crazy. Okay, so a couple of things this week. One, for our Zoom meeting on Wednesday, I want you guys to paint a rock. You can paint any kind of rock you want. Just have some kind of cool drawing. It can be a math thing. It can just be a fun, positive message. It can be a picture, whatever you want. But it's going to be like rock show and tell on Wednesday at 1 o'clock when we do our Zoom meeting. I'd love everybody to show rocks. I don't know if you guys have noticed that at least around our neighborhood, there are rocks all over the place with happy, positive messages. We've painted some rocks. I'll show you guys some of the rocks that we've painted and put all around the neighborhood. So after you paint your rock, take it to show and tell, and then you need to either give it to somebody or go place it out somewhere in the world. Okay? So I'll send this out in an email too, so you know, but I thought I would remind you here. Our plan going on, so we're all done with our math book. Can you believe it? If you finish chapter 14 and you put your test in, you're all done with your math book. So we have to do a bunch of review before the end of the year. Normally we would be doing this for our RISE test. I know it's such a bummer we didn't get our breakfast in class like we were supposed to. Well, let's just do our review anyway, so you guys will be really ready for next year going into 4th grade. So this is going to be your countdown packet. You are going to do the pages that are listed on the website. And then after you do the 2 pages, you're going to come here and we're going to review them. And you have to check your pages, make sure you did it right, okay? So it should be pretty simple. And maybe even we can do some more fun activities as we kind of get used to this. But let's start with this one. Go ahead and get your countdown pages out. You should have already done pages 19. 19 weeks, you should have done those 2 pages. And this is just going to be correcting it, okay? So let me get this small. The last video I did, my picture was too big and it blocked some of the work we were doing. Okay. All right. 19 weeks. Let's read number 1. Abby was playing a game. She rolled 5, 8, and 2. How can Abby create the largest number with these digits? Then you need to round this number to the nearest 10 and the nearest 100. Okay, so if I was trying to do 5, 8, and 2, if I'm going to do the hundredths place, what is the biggest number that I can put first? The biggest number, actually, let's do it over here. The biggest number I can do would be what? 8. That would be the biggest number I could put in hundreds place. And then I need the next biggest number in the tens place, which would be what? 5. And then the next biggest number would be, well, it's the last number we have, 852. If I was going to round it to the nearest 10, I have to look at the tens place. The 5 is the tens place. That's the number I'm going to round. Now I have to go next door. Is that 2 going to say round it up to 6 or stay at 5? Right, we're going to have 850 because we're going to stay at 5 because that 2 says go down to 0. Now, if I'm rounding it to the nearest 100, I have to look at the hundreds place, which is the 8. And I go next door, and is that 5 going to tell us go up to 9 or stay at 8? You're right, it's going to say go up to 9. Remember, because 5 or above, you round up. 4 below, you stay at that number and add zeros. Good. Okay. All right, let's look at number 2. When comparing numbers for the game, Abby becomes confused as to which numbers were larger. Using specific math vocabulary, tell how rounding can help Abby compare these numbers. Okay, so if we are going to try and round to these numbers, let's look at A. How could we round the 2 numbers in A to see which one is bigger? Because they both have a 71 in there in the tens and the ones. So what do you think we could do? So I would say for A, round to the biggest place value, because we were trying to say, are we going to round to the ones or the tens or the hundreds or the thousands? Let's round to the biggest place value that both numbers have. So if I'm looking at a number that only has tens and another with hundreds, we need to round them all to the nearest tens because that's all you have in common. So if we look at A, we could round, let's round to the biggest place value, which is going to be the thousands, right? So the first one is 3,671. We're going to look at the thousands, which is a 3, go next door to the 6, and the 6 tells us to what? round up. So if I was going to round that, I would round that to 4,000. Now what about 5,671? Oh, they have the same hundreds and tens and ones. That can be confusing. Okay, well, if I look at the thousands place as a 5, the 6 next door says rounded it up to what? 6,000, right? Now, if I'm looking at 4,000 or 6,000, can I tell which one is bigger? It's a lot easier, right? I can say, well, 5,671 is bigger because 6,000 is bigger, and when we round it, we can tell. Let's look at B. If we were going to round B, okay, this one has a hundreds place, and then the next one has a thousands place. So we need to round both of them to the nearest hundred because that's what they have in common. So 354, 3 is the hundreds place. Go next door to the 5. Is that 5 going to say go up to the 4 or stay at the 3? It's going to say go up to 400, right? And if we look next door, 3,000, you got to skip that thousands and go to the hundreds place, the 500 place. Now, is that 4 next door going to say go up to 6 or stay at 5? It's going to say stay at 5, right? So now I'm looking at, is 400 bigger or is 3,500 bigger? 3,500 bigger. It has many more thousands. 400 doesn't even have 1,000, okay? Let's look at C. We have 152 and 157. Now, normally, look at my directions to say round to the biggest place value that they have. But this one, the hundreds are the same and the tens are the same. And now we're just looking at the ones. So this one, we are going to round to the smallest place value. Because in this one, it's a little bit different. So if I'm looking at you can't round to the ones because there's nothing next door to the ones to round it, right? You have to round, the smallest you can round is to the tens. So if I look at 152, I'm looking at the tens place. That 5 next door to 2 says round it to what? 150, right? And if I look at 157, look at that tens place again. What is that 7 saying round it to? Saying go up, take that 5 to 160. Then I can say, okay, is 150 smaller or 160 smaller? I can see which one is bigger and which one is smaller when I have them rounded like that. So C, you have to round it a little bit differently than we did with A and B. Okay, let's look at number 3. There was a contest to see who could guess how many jelly beans were in a jar. The closest guess without going over the total one. So if the number was 400, and you guessed 399, that would be really close without going over. But if I guessed 401, that would be going over. So that one wouldn't count. It would be the number lowest without going over, okay? So let's place, the closest guess without going over the total one. The actual number of beans was 135. Okay, place dots on the number line for each guess. So let's take our little dots right here and say one guess is 125. So there's 100, 110, 120, 130. So I've got to put this guess of 125 right in between there. Is that going to let me do that? Right there. Okay. Then we have 139. Well, here's 130. Here's 140. Here's 135 in the middle. So I'm going to have to make it right about there, right? And then 118. Okay, so I've got to go below 120. This is 115, so it's a little bit further from that line, but right about there. Oh, let's try that again. Right about here. Not wanting me to do it. There we go. Got to be a little bit closer. Okay, what was the winning guess? If the winning guess is going to be 135 right here, but you can't, if the guess goes over, it just doesn't count anymore. It has to be the closest guess below or up to 135 without going over. So which guess won? What guess is the closest? 125, right? Because that's the one that was the closest here, but it didn't go over. That one went over, so we can't count that one. Even though that one is closer, it went over, so it doesn't count. Does that make sense? Great. All right, let's look at your next page. Okay, we are going to use base 10 blocks to try and figure out how to do this. Okay, let's show each number in base 10 blocks. So these are kind of a pain because you got to draw them, but we can do it. And you know I can't draw with these very well, so then you can just even laugh at me and how hard this is. Okay, 33. I'm going to do a base 10. This is a 10, 20, 30, and then how many ones? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now this one's 330. So I can take this 30 right here, or this, nope, I'm sorry, it's wrong. 330. We've got to start with our hundreds block. So we have 1, 2, 3 hundreds. How many tens do we have right there? And we have 3 tens. So 1, 2, 3. Do I have any ones there? Nope, it says there's a 0 in the 1. So that's 33. And this one's 330. Okay. Which number is greater? Well, obviously we can see the one that has all of the hundreds in there is greater, but it can be kind of confusing because they both have 2 3s in there. So let's round them. Let's round them to the nearest 10 because I think that makes it a little bit easier. And 330 is already rounded to the nearest 10, right? But if I have 33, let's round that to the nearest 10. So I've got to look at the tens. That 3 is going to say, do what to that first 3 in the 10 space? Is that going to go up to a 4, or is it going to stay a 3? It's going to stay as a 3. So then here it looks like I have 30, and I have 330. I can tell that that is much greater because the 10s and the 1s are the same, and this one has 3 hundreds in there. That makes it a lot bigger, right? Okay, let's look at number 5. This number line shows the tree heights of 3 trees in Ray's backyard. 2 of the heights are labeled while he forgot to label the third height. About what is the height of the unlabeled point on the number line? Okay, so if we're looking at this number line, it's only going by tens. So when it doesn't have every single mark on there, then we kind of have to estimate, right? So we can see 35 is right here between 30 and 40. 78 is right here, closer to 80, between 70 and 80. And this one right here is between 60 and 70, but it doesn't look exactly halfway. What guess did you guys have in there? I would say that would be like 63 or 64. So I would say 60, well, let's just say 63. And my reasoning would be, I would say, because it says explain your reasoning, the dot is not quite to the middle between 60 and 70. So I think it is about 63. If you said about 64, about 62 even, maybe that would be pretty close. When the numbers are so close together, it's a little bit hard to tell. All right. Hey, that's not so hard. That's not so bad, right? Okay. You guys let me know if you have any feedback, if you have any questions, and go ahead, and this is just going to be the pattern every week. You do your 2 pages, and then you come back and check it, and then you can turn it in, but it needs to be all corrected. So you have to make sure that you correct it with our videos each time you have 2 pages to do. All right. See you at the next one.